Way's main event was next. Pat McAfee against Gunther. Michael Cole he discloses, I am going to be biased. I hope that Pat McAfee embarrasses Gunther, and I should be allowed to have an opinion after 28 years here. Well, Gunther did not get embarrassed in this match. That's my disclaimer at the beginning here. So Pat comes out. He gets a pretty strong reaction. I thought the best performer on this entire show of all of these matches was Gunther. I thought that this was the best performer at Backlash 2025. Pat wants to wrestle him right away. What did you think of Pat's attire? He came out here in a football jersey, and then he wrestled in his jeans and sneakers.
I think it was
this fit for him.
Like, it was fine for. I feel like what this might. Like, I don't know if he needed to show up in like a wrestling outfit. Like, I feel like the effect should be, this is a guy stepping out of the commentary desk completely out of his element. He should look like a normal person, just, with his shirt off. And obviously with the shirt off so that we could hear the smack of those chops. But I thought it was appropriate for the setting.
Well, Pat tries to wrestle and he avoids a chop early on. Everyone is chanting for Pat. There was no 50-50 among this crowd. And Gunther just plays with him, placing him down on the apron and pats him on the head. And Pat then springs over the top and unfortunately just trips. Lands right on his face, but gets right up. And Michael Cole.
But even that's also fine. Again, he's not supposed to be a wrestler. He's a commentator who doesn't usually do this. He should screw up. Right.
Yep. Michael Cole cites like this is his inexperience, and he just gets chopped as a result of this. Now, if this had been our previous administration, this would have been replayed like 15 times.
Yeah.
And then aired again on Monday. Pat attacks him with punches that I will say this are above Shane McMahon level, and lands his own chops before Gunther drops him.
The difference is like Shane would have been promoted on commentary as like
look at those strikes,
devastating striker. Shane
oh
McMahon.
My goodness,
still nurse
lights out, lights out. Shane O'Mac. Gunther just needs one chop to drop him and then starts attacking him. Michael Cole, who, I mean, he might have been grading for some, but I thought he added a lot because he's not even calling this match. He is cheerleading and screaming at Gunther to just end this. And he is just I thought Cole was as much part of this match as the two guys in the ring. And Wade Barrett was kind of just there for just very, very small little descriptions, and it was Cole just like reacting to this.
Well, Barrett kind of took over commentary, later on in this match, and Barrett's role was to be able to say, Michael Cole, what are you doing? Sit down. You're going to get yourself hurt. He was there to play a concerned parent.
So there are chops delivered by both, and Gunther just boots him down. And the crowd is screaming, you tapped out. Pat manages a series of slaps, so Gunther hits him with a German, applies the choke, but Pat fights to his feet. I mean, this guy, a product of 80s and 90s babyface comebacks, and he gets hit with another German, and Gunther just laughs as Michael Cole is pleading. So Pat elbows him off of the turnbuckle and goes for a moonsault, lands on his feet. Gunther grabs him, goes for another German. Pat lands on his feet again, and Cole reminds us this was not going to be a 5-star classic. And then Pat channels Sheamus with a brogue kick, then a super kick. Gunther powerbombs him, and Cole is screaming as Gunther applies a Boston Crab. Cole gets into the ring, walks up to the ring, and he's slapping the mat, encouraging Pat to fight as Gunther puts him into a crucifix. He's dropping elbows, and then Gunther, he then puts his attention over to Michael Cole, and Pat ends up stopping a power bomb to Michael Cole, and we get the Rick Rude, Bobby Heenan spot with Ultimate Warrior, where the suplex, Gunther gets tripped up by Michael Cole. He holds down the foot of Gunther. It's like, if this is the finish, this will be brutal. But no, Gunther kicks out of this, and Cole is now going to get murdered. And Gunther stares down Cole like he's going to kill this guy. And Pat gets out of a choke, is hit with the lariat, And now Gunther is ready to put this guy to sleep. He applies the choke, and I kid you not, Pat starts to hulk up. And this was the best hulk up ever because it was what me and my friends would always joke about what would be the best Hogan finish is he finishes the comeback where he just plops down. He can't do it and he gets beat. And that's what happened to Pat here. He could not complete the Hulk up and he's brought back down into the quicksand and he goes out in 14 minutes as Gunther wins. And afterwards, Pat makes it to his feet. The crowd is cheering for him. Gunther shows his respect to Pat McAfee before walking off, and Pat gets a standing ovation at the end of this.
Yeah. You know, my expectations for this match were not low at all. I was actually anticipating this match the most out of the 5 on this particular show, and I can say my expectations were exceeded by the quality of this match. I thought my biggest concern for this match was that they would book this match with Pat McAfee suddenly getting off of the commentary desk and into the ring and suddenly being able to equal Gunther. I think that would have been the biggest mistake. They did not do that. They booked Pat McAfee like he was a commentator who should not be in the ring with Gunther and was there to get beaten up by Gunther. This was about an 80-20, I would even say like 90-10 Gunther match with him dominating this like commentator who should not be there. But they did rely on, I mean, what makes Pat work in these sort of situations is that he is a notable athlete, you know, somebody who had a professional football career of great accomplishment. So
like he's Steve McMichael, like the guy that comes off the booth, and he was like an NFL caliber player.
Yeah, but they booked McMichael like way
he was a horseman. Yeah,
like I know they booked him way too hard. Like this was an appropriate level of booking for a former football player who suddenly finds himself in the ring with like, you know, the best wrestler that's out there right now. So Pat has just the right amount of credibility for you to buy into those kicks, buy into those punts, and buy into some of those hope spots. But it was the Michael Cole element that really lifted this match for me. You know, they weren't necessarily the parts of the match that I was predicting that would take place, but once he got in there, I mean, this match was just kind of taken to a different level. It led to some excellent false finishes, and by the end, they achieved I would say the highest crowd reactions up until of the night up until this point. And they rehabbed Gunther, in my opinion, after the J loss by giving him like a very sort of like big feeling match where he came out of it looking like that much more of a monster. They gave Pat McAfee the sort of great moral victory performance that I think they are all looking for. And it gave us like ultimately like a very memorable Gunther match that I thought was a great follow-up to the J loss at Mania.
I think as I look back at this card, if you were to tell me like what was the best match on this show, I would say like bell to bell, like best wrestling match, I would go with the women's match. But this to me was the best presentation on the show. And what I mean by that is that I think sometimes when we are just assessing these matches, it's to what Way said. If Pat McAfee came out here and all of a sudden he's wrestling like he's Finn Balor, it totally does not service the story, nor can this guy wrestle like that. Like as a quote unquote wrestler, like he's awful. Like he is really out of his depth. And that is the story. And this would be how you would book someone in this situation. If Stokely Hathaway is built up for a match down the road in AEW, I don't want to see him come out there and be going 50-50 with Adam Cole. I want to see him be Stokely Hathaway. And Pat McAfee, performed as Pat McAfee here. And this guy should be outclassed. And he should be a guy that has had 8 wrestling matches and looked like it against a world-class wrestler. But he's a babyface that this whole crowd believed in. And I would argue like this was like the most, I won't say it was the most engaged. They were very engaged for this main event we're about to get into. But this, to me, totally held its weight on a pay-per-view. Like, what I think, and Wade talked about it with me as well last night, was probably the best promoted match of this card. I thought they did a really great job. And what you got out of this, 14 minutes did not overstay its welcome. And you never felt stupid watching Gunther have to sell for this guy in some ridiculous fashion. And Pat McAfee played Pat McAfee perfect. And I think like that, if they came out and just had this like beautiful, smooth wrestling match, you're so missing the point of what this needed to be. It delivered what it absolutely had to be, and I was very entertained by it.
Yeah. I like Pat at this level. Like maybe one match every few years, with the right opponent, of course, But I don't necessarily need to see more of Pat than this. This I thought, made him feel like a special attraction. I'm sure we'll get some great publicity, maybe even outside of professional wrestling circles, and resulted in
you got
star
promotion of this
performance.
every day on ESPN this past week. Like every day he was talking about this match and promoting it through those channels. The one thing I thought they were just going to do just destruction of chops on Pat McAfee, and he took the chops, but I thought this was going to be like instead of
PCO?
like the Cena taking all the Germans, it was going to be Pat taking just an ungodly amount of he would just be hamburger meat on his chest.
Right,
but it was very red by the end of it. Like
there are a lot of chops. I don't know if you can always count. Well, I mean, that's the reason for no shirt, I would assume, on Pat McAfee, and we'll see the results of it tomorrow, I believe. But it resulted in, I think, like a great star performance for Gunther to hopefully a different audience than usual.
What did you make about doing the respect thing at the end of this?
I thought it was appropriate for the story. You want coming out of this, again, the moral victory for Pat McAfee, somebody who came in here and got beaten up, but did better than his opponent expected. So I thought it was just the way to cement that.
Yeah, I was not like sold on that, but I want to see what they do.
What's the harm in doing it?
I don't want to give Gunther any kind of redeeming factor here coming out of this. Like he should be the bully, and now there should be like a bigger threat to stand up to Gunther after this.
Well, I do wonder. I mean, we're past now his reign as champion. Should we be at the point where we're flirting with the idea of a babyface Gunther?
I don't think. I think you have so much fuel left in the tank. I think this guy is like arguably like if not the top heel in this company, like he is among them. I think he's so great in this role as just the wrestling snob, but has his like blind spots and can be beat in like against the wrong opponent. And I think I just think you can really run with this guy for a much longer time.
Yeah, and we got Goldberg presumably coming up as well. So I guess he'd have to stay heel for that.
This month on the Post Wrestling Cafe, we're bringing you 3 editions of Rewind Away, including an in-depth look at WrestleMania 32 from 2016, a 2003 edition of SmackDown featuring the Iron Man match between Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, and a special Patrons Pick where you get to choose what John and Way review. MCU Later returns with a review of Thunderbolts. Pollock and Ting will sit down and talk. We've also got coverage of Wrestling Dontaku, Collision Course every Saturday night, and of course, XL editions of Rewind to Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown. $6 a month gets you in the door at postwrestlingcafe.com.